But it was nice, then we got invited to, we went to IBMA, and you were not there.
No.
And
Back in those days, Janet and I couldn't afford 2 plane tickets.
yeah.
So she did it most of the time. Sometimes I did it by myself.
Yeah. I was playing a Gibson RB3, pre-war banjo at the time, and all original, nice banjo, right? And so Gibson, you remember Todd Wright. Todd Wright came and said, "Hey, love you playing. Why don't we work together? Because you play Gibson, and we could provide you with the Gibson." And I said, "Well, that sounds like a fine idea because that would be a good idea." So in Louisville, he said, "Okay, come and see me tomorrow at 2:00 at the booth, at the downstairs booth." And so I went down there and looked around the banjos, and I liked the banjos, but my banjo I had was as good or better than anything they had. So I wondered a little bit, why would I play one of these banjos? If my banjo was, I didn't need a banjo actually. And then I thought to myself, well, and then nobody showed up. Todd Wright wasn't coming. He was driving around Earl Scruggs. He apologized later, right? He couldn't, just couldn't be there. And the person that worked at the booth was actually very rude. I was standing there for a while and said, "So what do you want?" And he was like, he wasn't really nice. And I said, "Well, I'm just looking at the banjos." Yeah. What do you need to know about them? I don't know. It was just like very unpleasant atmosphere. So I backed off from the booth, and Janet was on the Deering booth on the side. And so she said, "Hey," and I said, "Sorry." So I just went over to Janet and we talked, and we remembered, the Merlefest and everything. And she said, "What are you doing at the Gibson booth?" And I said, "Well, Todd Wright said, that am I doing a sponsor deal, where I get, a banjo at full cost, at cost or something." And Janet said, "So why don't you play Deering?" And I said, "Well, in the moment, my banjo is really good, and I don't know, I don't see anything, that I would trade it for, right?" And she said, "We would really like to work with you." And I said, "How?" And she said, "Well, why don't we have dinner?" And so Uwe, Joel, and me, and Philip, and Janet, we all went to dinner in Louisville, went down to the table, and we had a good time. It was just great to visit. And then I said to Janet, Janet said, "What kind of banjo would you like?" I said, "Well, I'm pretty happy with what I got." And she said, and I said, "Well, but when I think about, there's a few things, that I would change, I would like to have different, and I would actually like to have a little bit of a different tone, because I need a little bit more sustain and things and such." And then I did a trick question to Janet, I said to her, "So what's your concept of tone with Deering?" And then she said, "We don't have one." She said, "We want to make banjos that people need. And we want to find out what people need and what people love. And that's what we want to build." And I thought that was a brilliant question. A brilliant answer, not question, but a brilliant answer, because I asked that same question of Gibson. And the answer was, "We're making the best banjo, so you just, And there was no conversation about any of that. There was no innovation idea. It's just, that's what we do, which is fine. They can do that. But I love what Janet said, because it would incorporate my ideas of how I would like to have a banjo. And she said to me then, "You know what? We don't have to agree on anything. You just let us know what you want. We build it, and you let us know and we make as many banjos as you like until you got one you like better than what you're playing right now." Now, can you imagine when you're a musician and you hear that from somebody?
Well, we meant it. We're happy to do that, because you got to keep reaching forward. You got to keep pushing the envelope. You got to keep conquering the secrets of the Holy Grail.
It was interesting, because then we didn't talk much further, because I said to Janet, "Well, I just got to figure out of what I actually looking for, and try to figure out of how that could be achieved." And so I started to talk also again to Bobby Lauer and talk to different makers, and if I want more sustain, how would I do this without increasing the highs, and how would I do this, and how could I incorporate this and that and the other. And so I always talk to a lot of people who are very knowledgeable about instrument making in general. And so because a friend of mine was Boner, and Boner was the caretaker of Yehudi Menuhin's violins in Lucerne. And he talked to me a lot about wood and the different wood species and how they react and how the dampening is in maple and what maple does what kind of dampening and and structures. And it was so fascinating for years. We would go down there and sit with him, and just bring also my banjos down and show him things and basses that I had. We have an old bass, 300-year-old bass. And it was just great. So I was actually surrounded with good musicians. So I went to visit with them, and I came up with different ideas, that I had. And so I called Janet up. Said, Janet, I have an idea for a banjo you could build. But do you remember that my English is still not that great, but it was not good at the time, especially my spelling and such. So I said, I want, because there's W. And
I remember you wanted a U-shaped neck. And we built a beautiful U-shaped neck. And when we got to bring the banjo to you, you go, this is not a U-shaped neck. This is not what I wanted. And I don't know why I had the insight, but I handed you a piece of paper and a pencil and said, draw me a U. And you drew me a V. And I said, yes, that's a V. And then you went, oh, no.
Of course, I knew that.
In German, a U is a V and a V is a U.
Yeah, well, it's a double U, right?
Yeah.
And it's like a V. That's completely. I know, I was just carried away, and I said the wrong thing, and I knew it. In the moment I looked at it, I said, of course. And I just, a mistake just stuck with me for a long time. And then you said, no problem, we make you another neck, no problem. But I played that one for a while, and I really liked it. And it was tube and plate, actually. The first banjo you built me was tube and plate. I still have it, of course. That's a great sounding instrument, It's a really great sounding instrument. And we changed all kinds of things. But then we went on. And it was first only about the banjo I play, right? And it was for only about the banjo I play. And not that we even thought of working together, in any other way. It was just about my banjo.
We were determined to build what you wanted, and it meant doing things. Meant we had to try different alloys on the tone ring. It meant we had to try different shapes on the tone rings.
Oh yeah.
And we went through a lot of things like that before we started getting it even into the ballpark, let alone all the way there.